Hey, listeners. Welcome to At Life with Irene. I'm your host, Irene Russell. Listeners, I'm so excited to be beaming in all the way from Chicago once again, Miss Alexis Gladstone. This is her second time on this podcast. She is an entrepreneur and leadership expert. She is the founder of Intelead, a Chicago-based consulting practice dedicated to aligning people strategies and business results. Intelead designs strategies and programs to help current and next generation leaders increase their effectiveness in sales, as well as drive organizational change that delivers results. What I really enjoy about Alexis as a leader is that she has a passion for empowering professional women and helping them to succeed. Hence, I am delighted to have her back as a guest talking about women in sales. In this episode, we caught up on her lessons learned. Just over 1 year since her last guest appearance on Season 2, Episode 9. That's, around the beginning of pandemic times. We had a super awesome discussion about how women can stand out in sales and increase their credibility, regardless of what industry they work in. As well, we discussed some key tactics that can be applied immediately to up-levels one performance as an emerging or established leader in the sales industry. As you know, listeners, in this podcast, we are more than just business. So I invite you to take in some of the things that Alexis mentioned she does to ground herself in business in her day-to-day life, some of the self-care that she's doing, and of course, all that jazz in life that makes it so exciting. Listeners, as you listen to this episode, I wish that you get a boost of energy and the ideas you need to kickstart your big career pivot, whether that's in entrepreneurship or your life journey. This podcast is your dose of inspiration to make you realize that you never quit on your dream. Sometimes a pause occurs to give you the nudge you need to pivot in a new direction. If you enjoy this episode, definitely take a minute to rate and review it on Apple Podcasts and share it with a friend. Give them a blessing today. Now, let's get into this episode. Welcome, Alexis.
I am so excited to be talking to you again, Irene. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, wow. It's my pleasure to have you back. I mean, you were on in Season 2 last year. It's been a whole year since we've connected, apart from, social media on LinkedIn, which you're regular on. And tell me, what lessons have you learned in the last 12 months?
Oh, so many lessons, I think. But I think the biggest one is not necessarily a lesson I've learned, but something that has been reinforced over and over and over again. And that is business, no matter what you're in, business and life for that matter, it's still all about relationships. Because this last year, as we know, relationships were so important. And I think, as we lived the way we did over the last year, it reinforced the fact that not only are they important, but you can build them in so many different and cool and unique ways. I mean, just look at us connecting.
I absolutely agree with you. In terms of the human connection, it became so evident, right? During this pandemic times, people being at home in lockdown, not being able to see business partners or clients as often, especially for those who were doing, whether it was, trade shows or B2B meetings in various parts of the world, like hopping on a plane and traveling to, to get that handshake done, to seal the deal. So you are right in terms of relationships. And as you said, in life, bringing it to the home, to the community, the importance of that connection. And it's so wonderful, technology and seeing how much it's being used right now, right?
Oh, absolutely. I just was saying to someone the other day, could you imagine if this had happened in the world 10 years ago, where Zoom wasn't, I don't even think Zoom was invented, and that's what most people use. I mean, there were other things, other opportunities in virtual platforms, but it would have been a completely different year of 15 months how we were living than what we were able to live this past since last March of 2020.
I absolutely agree with you. So tell me, what is firing you up right now in 2021, Alexis?
Well, what there's been a lot of different things going on, but the thing that has been the most exciting is starting a program, a virtual program, of course, for with a partner of mine for women in sales. And we kicked that off and we started it late last fall toward the end of 2020. And it's been going like gangbusters. And the momentum and the feedback we're getting is just so great that I've just continued to be fired up about it and continue to love everything that we're able to give back to women in sales and help them become even more successful.
Well, that's awesome. And why did you focus specifically on women in sales as a leadership coach?
Yeah, it's funny because my partner that I'm doing this with, she spent her career in sales. I have actually worked with a lot of organizations, consulting and helping develop training in sales, and of course, doing sales for my own business that I've had since I always forget how to do the math, but I started in about 2004. So sales is part of my consulting practice. One of the things that we know and that she and I realized is that training that is out there, most of the training for sales has been created by men and for men, which means it doesn't resonate with the way women operate and the way women want to be when they show up in sales. So that was one of the impetuses. And the other one is the fact that we both love giving back. We think it's really important to bring women up and to do things to support women. And what we did is we've taken our sales coaching and small group programs that we've done and we've put it into a more accessible format as a way to give back to women.
That's awesome, Alexis. And, with the training that you're giving, one of the key questions, a woman in sales would ask is, how can you help me advance that dial, within the industry that I work as a salesperson?
Yeah, there's so many different things we can do. Even women who have been trained in sales and have been doing it for a while. Sometimes I think in everything anybody does, we kind of lose our habits that maybe we had early on that made us successful. So one of the things we can do is we step back and we say, what are those key components that really make you can be a success and make the process easier? So we look at some key components around how do you differentiate yourself in the world, because there's probably a lot of you selling the same product or service. So what do you offer both personally and how do you differentiate yourself? We look at things about knowing what's important to you and knowing your values. We look at how you build relationships. You asked me what was reinforced earlier, and it's relationships. We look at how you can get referrals, because that is the lifeblood for people in sales, is to be able to get referrals. And we talk about getting referrals without even asking. And then we talk about one of the things for women that's so important is women need to figure out how to structure their time, because so many women in the working world, whether they're in sales or not, they have their home life that they need to balance. So we talk a lot about that. So putting all those components together is what can move the needle and really help people even take their sales success to even greater heights.
That is so amazing, that you and your business partner have drilled down to that. And I really like the component as it relates to time management, because women wear multiple hats, being moms or being, supporters within the community, having a variety of activities and initiatives that they spearhead outside working in the company. And so with regards to that, do you, recommend various time blocking strategies to them? What sort of things, what sort of tips do you give them?
Yeah, there's a number of different things, and obviously, different things are going to work for different people, men or women. So we give some different ideas of some different things. One of the things I love talking about is we all have those times in the day that we're most productive. Some of us are morning people, some of us are more late night people. So when we can figure out where those productive times, that time is, or those times are, those blocks of times, those are the blocks that you need to really carve out to do some of those like intense thinking type of activities, or those things that you really need to power through. So that's one of the things we talk about. We also talk about the simple idea of we all have huge to-do lists, and you're right, Irina. We also have these different hats we're wearing of mom, sister, brother, sister, mother, aunt, grandmother, whatever it is, and we want to wear them both equally. We want to give equal effort when we're in our work, and we want to give equal effort and time when we're not at work and we're with our family
Yeah.
and personal life. So we talk about, taking that huge to-do list and breaking that down into, what's important, what has to get done, what would be nice to get done, and what can you leave till later. And as you start to kind of look at that and work through yes, I have to do all this stuff, you can start moving things around in terms of what it is that you need to get done. And you start checking things off the list and re-looking at those priorities on a daily basis. Those are just a few.
That's excellent. And you're right. There are different types of people, whether, you're in a morning, let's get it going, or a night owl. So definitely having and knowing yourself as an individual and the time that works best for productivity is really cool. So it's great that you have those tips to share to the women in sales. Now, for women who are getting into the sales industry, right? Women who have a sales background and they're looking at switching from one industry to the other, what type of advice would you have for them as they bring forward the sales skill sets into another industry?
That's a great question. I think first of all, if you've been successful in an industry in sales, that is what I call transferable skills. So transferable skills are those things that you did it somewhere and you used it somewhere and you can take it somewhere else. So and that happens in sales, and sometimes transferable skills are even you're bringing in things you didn't think relate to what you're going to be doing. From sales, if you have a good process and if you have good discipline around your sales process, that's going to be great to take to whatever industry you're moving to next in terms of sales. So what you really need to learn about going into the new industry is obviously the new product or services. And you also need to learn about, then the client base in terms of who are the ideal clients for those products and services. And then the nuances within this new organization in this new industry. And that's where you start making friends with those other people that you're working with, and you start learning and talking to them and learning from them in those different pieces so that you can take what you do really well and then just easily pick it up and move it into the new industry.
That's excellent, Alexis. Now, you talk about systems and processes, and we all know that's very important, whether you grow as an individual within your career, having those types of processes and systems in place. Let's get a little personal, with regards to your consulting company and the work that you've been doing over the last 20 something years. As you grow and scale your business, How important was it to set up those processes and systems as you scaled at different stages?
Oh, it's absolutely. I mean, you need to have those things in place that that help you be organized and that help you stay focused and help you stay on task. And you're right. Over time, as things change, as your client base changes, as your business grows, those change with you. So it might be as something as simple as I used to do it on a piece of paper, and now I actually, have invested in some software to help me keep track of something or to do something. So we all have to find those things that grow with us. But I think the thing that sometimes happens, and it happens to all of us, I don't know, and you can tell me if it's happened to you. We used to do something that we really kept us on track and we did really well and it really helped us. And then we kind of are like, oh, let me try something different and see if it works. And sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. But we forget to go back to that first one that worked really well. So I don't know. I know I've fallen into that sometimes. I don't know if you have too, Irenia.
Well, I can say, with the work that I do with the podcasting, there are so many systems and processes out there that, people are using. And yes, I did fall down that rabbit hole of looking at that next shiny object, in terms of how to organize myself, whether that's, with booking guests. Um, and getting them on for the interview and my whole process, when I do post production. And yeah, I have come back to the original good pen and paper and Excel. And I think that works for me at the moment. And it's simple, but it's effective for me.
Well,
Um,
I think you
yeah.
bring up a good point that you were just saying. I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of the things I wanted to say is you don't always have to reinvent the wheel, because somebody is out there and somebody has done it. Like you said, there's things out there. There's, you can even read articles about how people do it, or you can invest in the tools and the technology. But there's so much that is there. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. So I just thought of that, as I was listening to you talk, and that kind of hit me.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's what works for each individual within that area that they're in and what they're comfortable with. So, with regards to women choosing a career in sales, what makes sales a good career for women?
I think women bring to the table things that are really important in sales. And that's one of the reasons that we like working with women through the Skirt Strategy program. So women in general, and I always say this with kind of a caveat of no gender is either one way or the other. But in general, women bring really great people skills to the table. We grew up learning empathy, we grew up, a lot of us, kind of listening and things like that. So we're very good listeners. We have a lot of empathy, all of these people skills. And that's really what sales is all about. It's really making that relationship, making that connection. And it's all about asking questions and listening so that you can really hear what people are saying and what they're not saying. And that's, I think, some of the great things that women bring that make them really, really good at sales.
That is so true. And with regards to, building credibility as an individual woman in sales, what advice would you have for women in terms of building their credibility? What does that look like? A credible woman in sales.
Well, I think credible anybody in sales, but what you have to do, first of all, you really have to know yourself and you have to be comfortable with yourself, because if you're going to go get into sales and you're going to start going and talking to prospects and talking to clients, it is about being comfortable and asking the questions and not showing our, sometimes we don't always have the confidence, especially when we're starting out. So being able to bring your authentic self will really take great strides to make you credible. I think sometimes women think, I have to know it all. I have to know every single in and out of this product or service that I am selling. And especially when you're starting out, you really don't have to know that. What you have to know is how to ask the right questions, get the right information, and be comfortable and credible saying, you know what? That is a great question, and I'm going to get the answer for you. And that can go so far to build credibility doing that and saying that to a prospect or to a client and being truthful and credible in that, authentic in that way. So I think those are a couple things that you can do to build, your confidence and your credibility.
I love it. These are all great points. Listeners, these are some golden nuggets for you to definitely, bookmark because, with a lot of business development in any industry, right? In looking at, people always get crippled by, I don't know enough about this, right? And therefore they're not as confident. But it's all about doing your market research. And with the right question from a client, you can go back, do your market research, and come back with, the right answer or something as close to the answer as possible, and, uncover and discover as one continue to test and experiment with whatever sales activity that they are trying to achieve.
Absolutely. It's all about, we all build our confidence over time in anything new we start. So if you're starting out new in sales or new in anything, we have to give ourselves grace. We have to give ourselves time to build our knowledge base and to build our comfort level and not get rid of that inner critic that says we're not good enough or we're not doing it well enough or whatever it is that's saying that gets in our own way, because she's there with us all the time. So we need to be able to say, okay, enough. No, I don't know this, but that's okay. I can get the answer. Either I can research it or I can go ask someone. So for example, when it comes to our confidence level and do we have it or are we enough? I have a client that I coached. She was looking at moving from a regional role within her organization into a national role. And she had always worked in this one state, in this one small little region. And while she knew other people across the organization, she wasn't sure whether she really had the credibility, the capability, and the know-how in order to take on this national role. And not only was it a national role in terms of getting her out of her region, but it's a newly created role. So it's developing, designing what this new role needs to look like, and then going out, marketing it, and getting influencing without authority, so to speak, and getting people on board to what she's trying to accomplish. And so that's what we started by working on. First, she decided, yes, she was going to go for this national role. And then we've been working over the past year is once she started the role of how she goes out and how she talks to the different people across the organization that she never met before, how she builds those relationships, how she markets and brands this new role and what she's trying to do to get people on board. So, and she's been very, very successful. She's getting great feedback from the senior executives within the organization. So those are the types of things, she wasn't sure she could do it because she had never done it before. And we really had to work through what was holding her back. And it was really just the chatter in her own head.
Wowza. That's a great example, Alexis. Thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you.
So Alexis, you've so crystallized, the example of how you coach this individual, What are the different things that you have that you're offering right now?
I want to step back and talk about when you asked me earlier about women in sales and coaching and training them to be a success and what it is that they can do. And I kind of gave you 5 different activities and things that we talk about. But there's
Yes.
actually an acronym around that, and it's called the SCIRT strategy. And the SCIRT is an acronym for S is for standing out. We've got to stand out in this sea of sameness because there's a lot of us out there who need to figure out how to differentiate ourselves. The K stands for knowing your non-negotiables. We all have values that really talk about and let us know who we want to do business with. And if we know those values, then we can be very clear on who our clients are. The I is all about investing in relationships. And that is where you build relationships with people, with your prospects and with your current clients. The R is referrals and how you can get referrals without even asking over time. And then the T, we just talked a lot about time structure. So that's what that all stands for, what I talked about. And there's actually a free webinar that people can sign up to attend, which is really cool. We have it, they can go online to skirtstrategywebinar.com and sign up, and they can attend one of our free webinars and learn more about the strategy.
That's excellent, Alexis. I'm going to drop that website in the show notes. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for dropping it. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So we've talked quite a bit about, women in sales and the importance of, knowing yourself and what you're capable of, right? And the differences in terms of how a woman leads. So now let's get into the more personal side of things. What puts a pep in your step and a pride in your stride these days, Alexis?
I love that. Pep in my step and pride in my stride. That's awesome. You know what? I have been doing a lot of conversations lately with, besides SCIRT strategy, because that is the thing, but with a lot of women who are in early and mid-career. And I just realized, I was actually thinking about it this morning. I realized how much I love coaching and mentoring those women because they have so much potential and there's still so much in front of them in terms of where they can go that it hit me this morning. So it's really apropos that you asked me this question, Irenia, because I was really kind of thinking about it. So that's really these conversations I've been having with these women, and I learn from them as much as I think I am helping them.
All right, that's good. So how do you set the tone for your day, to really be productive?
I have actually started a new habit. I know when we talked a year ago, I think I talked about making my tea, which I still do, and sitting quietly, which I still do, but I do it a little bit different. I actually started, I don't know if you're familiar with morning pages. It's
No,
this,
I'm not.
okay, it's what's her name? Julia Cameron started it. There's a book called The Artist's Way, and it's where you free form write 3 pages. There's no right or wrong to what you're doing. It's just it's kind of getting whatever junk is in your brain when you first wake up, it's getting that out. And I started this habit. I've actually only started it, a friend of mine, we both decided to do it and hold each other accountable, I think 3 weeks ago. And I have done it every day. It's 3 pages. And some days it's venting, some days it's discovery, some days it's, I don't know what I need to write. But you write the 3 pages and it's really supposed to open you up and clear out, kind of your thought process to really then open you up for the rest of the day. And there's other things behind it too, but that's what I'm using it for. And I'm loving it.
That is awesome. I love this. Who did you say is the author?
It's Julia Cameron, I believe.
Okay, cool. I'll check this out and also drop it in the show notes.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure I have yes, Julia Cameron. That's who it is.
Okay, cool. And with regards to music, has your music changed in the last year in terms of what you're listening to, what's giving you that high vibration?
No, I still love my kind of like 70s disco and all that, but I do find lately more so than, and I used to do it a long time ago and I got out of the habit. A lot of times I'll actually put on while I'm working, just really in the background, just really quietly, I'll put on symphony music to just kind of try and open up the other side of my brain, depending on what I'm working on. And I hadn't done that in a really, really long time. And I'm finding it's in certain situations when I'm working on certain types of things, it's really helping me kind of stay balanced.
Well, that's good. And we know how important that is, being centered and being grounded in life. So I'm glad that you have a routine to share with our listeners because this is the first I've heard of morning pages, and I'm sure my listeners will really appreciate this as well.
Oh, I'm glad I introduced something new.
Cool. Wowza, Alexis. I don't know where the time went. We've talked so much. You've given us so much golden nuggets in this entire episode. If there's one last thought you want to leave with our listeners here today, what would it be?
I think my last thought for today would be to remind listeners, especially the women out there, that you are enough. So, whatever it is you are trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. And don't let the chatter in your head get to you. Don't let other people's opinions or your perceived opinions that they might have get to you. You, whoever you are enough and you have something great to offer, and go out and do it.
I love it. You said it best. Listeners, Alexis Gladstone, leadership expert from Chicago. Thank you so much, Alexis, for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited that we got to talk again. We need to make this a habit. Let's do it every year.
Okay.
At least every year.
I love it. I love that idea. I love bringing in back, guests who are making great strides within the industry, and especially those who are building up, women and helping them to make an impact, a greater impact within their careers. So thank you. If all listeners wanted to continue the conversation with you, how can they connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. You can always find me on LinkedIn. My URL is Alexis Gladstone on LinkedIn, and I love connecting with people there. Just make sure you drop a note saying, that you heard me, and so I know to accept the connection. You can also find me on my website, which is Intelead.com. That's INTELEAD.com.
Excellent. I'm going to drop that in the show notes. So thank you so much, Alexis.
Thank you, Irina.
This interview was conducted remotely in my mom's home studio.
Listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the follow button on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or head over to Spotify and hit that notification button, or wherever you listen, be sure to subscribe to this podcast for free. Those of you who are on Amazon Music, you can most definitely listen hands-free on your Alexa, so be sure to tune in. We love our avid fans, and we most definitely want you to know first when new episodes become available. Listeners, as we continue to build the Live with Irenia community, be sure to stay in touch with us. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram by following the Live with Irenia podcast. As well, email us at info@livewithirenia@gmail.com to get your full transcript of our episodes. If you love reading blogs, head over to www.ireniaroussel.org to get our latest blog golden nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This interview was conducted remotely in my home studio. Listeners, I hope you find your new vibes in this new supernormal in 2021. I'm your host, Irene Russell.